The particular verse that we are going to look at today is John chapter 10, verse 10. So if you have your Bibles with you, let's look at this particular verse. And if one of you can read this verse, it will help us to go further from there. So John chapter 10, verse 10. Particular. Yeah, anyone? Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
John?
10, yes. John chapter 10, verse 10. Anyways, I will read this verse. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. So in this particular verse, we see that there are few things mentioned here, particularly the characters. Number one, the character of thief, right? So Jesus is talking about a thief in this particular verse. So he says that the thief comes only to steal, an emphasis only to steal and kill and destroy. And he further says that I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. So the question is, what is thief here? Who is the thief mentioned in this particular passage? Who is Jesus talking about?
The
Let's,
enemy?
okay, and the enemy. So who is the enemy? Who is the enemy?
I I want to say Satan, but
Satan.
I you know me, I would go with humans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Humans are more dangerous.
Maybe the the false teacher,
The false teachers. And who would that be?
uh, the Pharisees and Sadducees who claim themselves to be higher than Jesus.
Okay. So interestingly enough, Eric says that it is Satan,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So Eric, how do you get the idea of Satan here before
Just
we get?
want I mean, I have to be honest, I just wanted to how to say, not to sound terrible. I mean, I think Satan, can influence us. He can
Mm.
instill
Yeah.
ideas into us as humans, but I don't think he can actually control us. I think it's kind of like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Like somehow he gives you the ideas, he tempts you, but at the end of the day, it's our decisions that determine the outcome of the situation. So in this case, I think thieves is more like you know humanity. For
Okay.
example, we are proud.
Mhm.
We always want to do things like we masquerade them, like, oh, this is for humanity, we want to help them, but in reality it's for our own glory, to look good. So what I think is that the thieves are the ones that picture, like she said, false prophets, but it's more like these people like Catholics in the past, that they did horrible things in the name of Jesus and God. So
Yeah.
that those horrible acts stole, the goodness of believing in God, because every non-believer is starting to think like, oh, is that your God? Like, in the name of God, let's kill all these people. In the name of God,
Yeah.
you have to give me your money, and look at me, I look so good and you don't, but I bless you. So I think that's the worst theft that there is. Like, when they steal the blessing of knowing the Lord for what it is, love, selfless love, not what many false prophets and leaders and pastors wanted to make it look. So sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point that you brought that out there. Yeah, we oftentimes, kind of like in order to escape from reality, we try to blame the entity, right?
Yeah.
And try to blame everything on him, saying that he's the one who's doing that. And interestingly enough, this passage has been for most times preached from the perspective of adding Satan or devil or on that particular occasion, right? So a lot of people say that a lot of preachers would bring out this passage and would say that Jesus is talking about the devil, that his competitor or his counter reference is directly to the devil. That devil is the one who is doing that, right? And so on and so forth. So the question really here is that who is Jesus talking about? Who is he addressing this? Who is he looking at and saying that, okay, you are the thieves, and things like that. So can you figure out who is the thief here in this particular passage? That is going to be our inquiry for today. We are going to find out who is the thief in this particular passage. Is it going to be the devil, or is it some person, an individual, or a group of people? Let's try to figure that out in this particular passage. So as we always do, let's go back and let's try to read. Actually, we should read from chapter 9, but let's read from chapter 10, beginning of chapter 10. And let's go all the way down to 14 or 15. Okay?
Chapter 10, verse 14 and 15.
No, chapter 10, verse 1 all the way to 14 and 15. Let's read this and come back in about 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes, and let's figure out who is the thief in this passage.
Hmm. Maybe the a group of people,
Who are they?
as I mentioned, maybe the Pharisees and Sadducees who was witnessing his ministry.
Okay. What does the passage say? What does the passage say? Who is that according to the passage? Is there a mention of Sadducees there?
No,
No, I don't see any Sadducees there, right?
yeah,
So who
but
is
in verse 6, it says, "This figure of speech Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them." So I assume it could be the disciples, or it could be the No, I mean like as in
I know, I know.
I don't know.
The disciples are the thieves. It is interesting. Uh, um,
The community whom he was addressing to.
okay, the community. Okay.
Uh, I stick to humans, but
Mm.
let me specify it because it's not fair, to say everyone.
Mhm.
I remember that, Jesus mentioned many times that the Pharisees, is that right? The high
Yeah.
high priest.
Pharisees, yes.
Every time Jesus was telling, people or his disciples something good about the kingdom of heaven and about God, they would
Mm.
always come to him or to the people and tell them that was like, that was not right. That was a lie. That was like, what is the name? It escaped my mind. How do you say it when you say that's
I think
blasphemy?
blasphemy
Blasphemy.
is
That's
blasphemy.
Yes,
yeah.
blasphemy. So like you're getting into this mood, like, oh yeah, this is Jesus, this is the Messiah, this is God, and then
Yeah.
these guys come with all their fancy labels and titles, and somehow they cloud your judgment, like, oh, but how can I question these people? They know better. They are high priest. Then I would say that somehow they are stealing that chance you have to be part of Jesus' kingdom. That's the interpretation I give to this, because I tell you, Satan is as dangerous as a knife is, if a cook has it, if a chef has it, or if a killer has it. So you know what I mean. Like a cook would never kill with a knife, but a killer would. But still, knife is a knife. So I think Satan is the same. Depends who is he influencing. He's as dangerous as that. But after all,
Mhm.
I go with humanity in this instance.
Yeah. Again, my question is,
Yeah.
who is the exact thief? According to the passage, we're not going elsewhere. We are not looking at any other point. You're looking at this particular passage and we're saying that who is Jesus talking about? Because a lot of times, the people, preachers especially, preachers dump this all on Satan, that Jesus is talking about Satan, right? So a lot of
Yes.
preachers do that. They put this all on Satan. That Jesus is looking at Satan and he's telling that, oh, he's the one who is the thief and is trying to steal you away from me and things like that. But is he really referring to Satan, or is he referring to a person or a group of people, or who are they? Who is that in this particular passage?
Pharisees.
Pharisees. Very good.
Yes.
Yes, Pharisees.
I'm going there.
Yeah, Pharisees. So we have first contender. First contender is Pharisees. So we are going to throw away Satan from the throne. We are going to
Mm.
put Pharisees there on the throne. Yes, Pharisees. Anybody else? Disciples, we had disciples too. So we are going to put disciples there? No?
Individual to an individual, it could be to an individual as well, as I said, like the community whom he was um what do we call addressing to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Because yeah, from chapter 9, if we read, I mean, like, it does mention about the Pharisees, and then come when we talk about chapter 10, it talks about the good shepherd, where Jesus, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do agree that this particular verse uh
Mm-hmm.
may be addressing to the Pharisees.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because as I said, in chapters at verse 6, it talks about, it's referring to them, right? It's
Yeah.
not referring to an individual. Whereas when we read on, and when we reach verse 10, it comes, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so one of the things that we do while reading the Bible is to reread, right? We read it so many times, we read the passage several times. And when we reread, we identify that there are some common words, words that repeat after repeat. They come so many times, right? So in this particular passage, do you see any particular word that flashes time and again, comes over and over again? Is there any word that you find that is overly stressed in this particular passage?
Shepherd.
Shepherd. Okay, shepherd is one thing. Very good. Yes.
Thief?
Shepherd is a very stressed word. Yes.
Sheep.
Sheep. All right. Very good. Sheep, shepherd. Anything else?
Stranger, but
Stranger. Okay. Stranger comes in like 2 times, I guess, right? Yeah.
Maybe the word I am.
I am. Okay. Very interesting idea. I am repeats quite a few times. Yes.
thieves.
Anything?
Gate.
Gate. Okay. Gate comes in a few times here.
A wolf.
A wolf. Very interesting. Wolf. Wolf. Thieves. Wolves. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thieves and wolves. Very interesting. Anything else?
Flock.
Flock. Again, a very interesting idea.
Maybe
Flock.
it has
Flock.
not been mentioned, but
Flock,
Yeah.
sheep. Very similar, right? Yeah.
similar.
Anything else? We are missing something. We are missing one word that has come quite a few times here.
Father.
Father, okay. Father is one.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
And anything else? We are circling around it. We've talked about wolves, we have talked about thieves, we have talked about the negative aspects. We are missing out one particular word that we want to focus today.
He.
He. Okay, he. Oh, very interesting again. Yeah, I mean, like these are all fine. I mean, these are all, what do I call them? These are all like amplifying words, right? These give you like a deeper sense of a particular thing that is mentioned, right? But what I'm looking at is something that is related to the subject of this whole passage. So any word that is connected to the subject of this passage.
Like the subject being shepherd and his sheep.
Okay, shepherd and sheep can be one thing. Yes.
That's a subject. That would be
Okay.
the subject.
Can we so for example, these are like, let's put them as a subordinate nouns, right?
Yeah.
Can there be a main, like main noun there, main word, main character that is mentioned in this passage? I think we've gone over this. Maybe we need to go over this again in order for us to put our finger on that very particular word. We are missing one word. There's just one word that we are missing. It's repeated, I think, 2 or 3 times. We need to get over that.
I am the shepherd. Then
Yeah, we've talked about shepherd, we've talked about thief, we've talked about robbers, we've talked about wolves, we've talked about
Father.
father.
Yeah.
There's one thing that we are missing, one particular character we are missing out.
Jesus.
What's that?
Jesus.
Jesus, yes, okay. Jesus is the one who is talking, so yeah, Jesus, we are missing out Jesus. One character. We are almost there. Think about it. Think about like Jesus is talking to people, right?
Yeah.
And he's telling them that there is a thief that comes and steals, right? So he's characterizing the thief. Okay, so we are trying to find out the word that connects to thief.
Jewish religious group.
Is there any Jewish religious group mentioned in the passage?
Mhm.
Okay, where is it? Where is it?
So no Pharisees, right? No
Ah,
followers. Yeah,
yes, it is Pharisees. It is Pharisees.
it
We
is
are looking at
Pharisees.
Pharisees. Yes. We talked about every other thing, but we
Yeah.
missed out Pharisees, right?
Whoa,
Yeah.
Great.
Pharisees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look at this chapter, right? Look at this chapter very carefully. The first verse, chapter 10, verse 1. Who is he talking to?
The Pharisees.
Pharisees. He is addressing it directly to Pharisees, right?
Yeah.
And what is he saying? Verse
Uh,
1.
They
Very
didn't.
truly, I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way is what?
A thief
A
and a
thief,
Is a thief and
a robber.
a robber. So now on, Jesus is going to tell them more about these things, right? So he has already made them understood that what he's going to talk about. Now he's going to amplify it. He's going to bring more clarity to what he's talking about, right? So, verse number 2, the one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. So he's talking about two things, right? One is the thief, a robber who does not go by the gate, who enters by climbing in, right? He climbs in by some other way, and that person, that the one who is Jesus is talking about, is a thief and a robber. But the one who enters by the gate is who? Shepherd of the sheep.
Head of the sheep.
So we have two characters here right in the beginning, right? One is the thief and the other one is a shepherd. So we are going to look at these two characters in this whole passage. Number 3, verse number 3. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listens to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought all of his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. So he's talking about the shepherd, a shepherd who enters into the gate and he draws his sheep. In other words, he makes his sheep follow him, right? The sheep are following the shepherd by listening to his voice. And number 5, okay? But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. A stranger who is a thief, a stranger who is a robber. Jesus, number 6 is very interesting. Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees, the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. So who he was telling this to? He was telling this
Pharisees.
to the Pharisees.
Pharisees.
So all of this that Jesus is telling from verse 2 all the way down to verse 5, Jesus is telling these things to the Pharisees. He's telling them about the thief, a robber, and about the shepherd. So two characters. Let's go to verse number 7. Therefore, Jesus said again, very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. So the gatekeeper, the shepherd, everything is Jesus. So he is referring all the good things to himself. He's telling that he enters through the gate, he calls out to his sheep follow him, the sheep listen to his voice, and the sheep do not listen to the voice of a stranger. Stranger, in other words, a person who is a thief and a robber. Let's read verse 8. All who have come before me. Now, this is very interesting. All who have come before me. So, Jesus is referring to every other person who has taken the role of leading people, right? We are talking about shepherd, we are talking about leading, we are talking about how the sheep listen to the voice of the shepherd and so on and so forth. So Jesus is telling all the ones who have come before me are thieves. So he's nullifying every other leader, every other person who is there, and thieves and robbers. But the sheep have not listened to them. Verse 9, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved, and they will come in and go out and find pasture. Verse number 10, the one that we read today. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have, who are they? The sheep or the people may have life and have it to the full. Verse 11, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. Who is the hired hand?
Jesus.
God,
Who is the hired hand?
God,
The hired hand does not own the sheep. Who is the hired hand?
He who is a hired hand, not a sheep. The thieves and robbers.
Or probably the people who are given the responsibility to lead people, right? Yeah, like for example, the religious leaders. So when he sees, that is the hired hand, sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, I lay down my life for the sheep. So Jesus, as we have seen here, Jesus is directly referring to who? Who is he referring to? He's referring to the who is this? Who is the thief? Who is the robber? According to this passage, that was our initial question.
The Pharisees.
Pharisees, right? He laid
Yeah.
out two characters. One was the thief, the robber, and the other one was
The
the good
sheep
shepherd
and
who does all the good things. And the bad shepherds or the thieves who do not belong there are the ones who are trying to destroy. They don't follow. They don't do the things that they have to do. And they are nothing but a thief and a robber. So oftentimes this passage is referred, the thief in this passage is oftentimes referred to Satan, right? Now it is not that Satan doesn't do that, right? He does it. He does things like this. He does lead people astray. But our whole intention of reading this passage is not to go to that extent. First, identify who Jesus is talking to, right? He's not directly talking to Satan. He's not directly talking to the devil. He's talking to the religious leaders. He's talking to the Pharisees, right? So yeah, so we have read a passage today that oftentimes is misunderstood by people, oftentimes misunderstood by pastors. Pastors oftentimes preach this, saying that they replicate Jesus. But you know what? In this passage, Jesus is actually putting a big stone on the religious leaders, or in other words, on the pastors, let's say, because they are responsible for taking care of the sheep. But what they do is that they leave the sheep. They run away when danger comes. So they are not the true shepherds. So the Pharisees are not the true shepherds. Jesus is, because they don't care for the sheep, right? So let's read this verse again, verse 10 of chapter 10, verse 10. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have, that is the people, the sheep, may have life and have it to the full. All right, any questions?
Oh, yeah, it was the Pharisees.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I think today's prize goes to Eric. He was a
Yeah.
very good student. He got the answer right on. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about reading this passage. So so yeah, it was Pharisees. This the direct address here is going to the Pharisees. How do we know that? Verse 1. Jesus is talking directly to the Pharisees, not talking to other people. He's talking directly to the Pharisees. And he's using figurative speech, he's using other characters in order to tell them that they are like those things. They are like the thieves, they are like the robbers, they are like the people who take care, who tend to take care but run away when the wolf comes, because they don't care for the sheep as much as the real shepherd comes. So Pharisees, as one of the most interesting things about Pharisees is that they used to consider themselves as the shepherd of Israel, right? The
Yeah.
people who lead other people. But in John, we see that they are the ones who lead the people astray. They are the one who destroy people and things like that. So it's quite important for us to read the passage in its context to understand who Jesus is addressing to, what he is talking about, and how he is bringing out the limitations of human character, and trying to portray how people have to be, or how people should identify false leaders, right? So one of the things that I really, really admire about this passage is that oftentimes we are told not to be critical, right? We should not be critical of our pastors. We should not be critical of our leaders. We should not be critical of who are leading us, right? But here, Jesus himself is critical of the leaders. He's questioning them, right? So it's important for us to question our leaders. It's only when we question, I'm not saying this in a bad sense, I'm saying this in an actual sense. If a leader is not doing his or her job, it is important for us to question them and ask this real question, that are they the true shepherds as they claim to be, right? So that is one thing that I would like to stress upon. Anything else that you want to ask? Or JP has joined us, John has joined us quite later on. John, you have any questions you can ask?
I have a question.
Sure, please go ahead.
It's JP.
Yep.
Yes, we heard about this thing that you don't have the right to talk bad against your pastor or your leader. That's a curse can come upon you. I used to hear that when I was in the church in Africa, in Cameroon. Sometimes we see some things going on, but we don't want to say it because we feel that if you speak bad against God's anointed, uh,
Yeah.
a curse can come upon you. So I don't know. I have a worry to that, Pastor Winged. If you can help me to clarify some worries I have concerning that, because really truly a lot of like since I started studying the gospel of Christ, my eyes are opening gradually, and I'm beginning to see some flaws that are in church doctrines and church and some kind of religious practices that were not true. Things that we did that were not right in the church. So, and sometimes you want to speak up, some people will rise up against you and just tell you to, yeah. So those are my concerns.
Yeah, very interesting. I think one of the things that is, it's not just about Cameroon, but I think it's in most of the places. You'd find
Okay.
this a lot of times, that people, when you question something regarding to a leader or someone, a lot of times people, shut you down, saying that no, you shouldn't do that because, like you said, a curse may come upon you and things like that. But the real question is that, are you saying anything bad? Is your intention bad? Or are you questioning the essential things? Like you, for example, if you're seeing corruption in a church, right? You're raising that question. You're not saying anything bad. I don't think your intention is to go against any particular leader because you hate that person or because you have any ulterior motive behind that. You are asking essential questions. You're asking
That's
question
true.
about someone's character, someone's, moral standards. And I think there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong in that. In fact,
Mhm.
when I was a pastor, even when in India, I used to do that. I say this even today that people should question me.
Mm.
It is important.
Wow.
My staff should question me. My congregation should question me because only when they question me, I know where I'm going wrong. You
Wow.
know what I'm saying? So it
That's
is
true.
essential to raise questions. It is essential to ask why is it happening in this particular manner? Because for me, I personally think this that there is an answer to everything. There is an answer in a proper direction. If you take them in a proper direction, there is
Yeah.
an answer to that. Just I think it was just last week. We were told about a pastor who molested kids for over 10 years.
Ah.
But nobody knew that.
Wow.
Nobody knew
Wow.
that. And people went to the church, people participated in the ministry, but nobody questioned that. Nobody raised their voices solely because of what you said. They think that if they go against the pastor or the religious
Mhm.
leader, they are
Correct.
invoking the curse of God upon them. So yeah, so do you think that if you raise questions like that, are you doing anything bad? I don't think so,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
I'm not is exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when Jesus was raising this question against the Pharisees, Jesus' intention was not to step on their toes or
Mhm.
to remove them from the
Remove
from
them.
the from the authority or anything else. I don't think his intention was anything like that. But if you
Okay.
read chapter 9, you'd see that the Pharisees were questioning the person who Jesus healed. They
Mhm.
cast him out from the synagogue, and they
Synagogue.
actually they did like they persecuted him
Mhm.
because Jesus healed him. So Jesus
Yes.
was raising this question: how could you do that? Being a religious leader, how can you not take care of
Not
the
take
sheep?
it.
And that's
Wow.
where we go into chapter 10, and he says that the one who do not enter into the sheepfold by the gate are actually the thieves and robbers. And that's how he attacks the Pharisees. So I think, in my personal opinion, every pastor should be questioned. Every
That's true.
pastor should be okay to be questioned.
Mhm.
Every pastor should let the congregation question him.
Question him.
That's important. That's called
Okay.
accountability. So
Yes.
that is essential. I think so. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
I hope that clarifies some of the things. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, if there are?
I always thought thieves and robbers were related to, devil,
Uh,
because since childhood, this is what we had been hearing from our preachers back home when I was growing up. So,
Mhm.
um, I mean,
Mm.
like, I think that's one of the reasons why I think we should not just believe what the preacher is saying. I just remember that that very statement said by Sir Anish, our previous pastor who was teaching us. So, I mean, like today, when I am deeply learning how to read the Bible, I'm having so many. I mean, like I think there are so many things that I still don't know about it. And today, when I read the Bible, when I'm doing this class, I mean, like there's so much clarity clarity now than I was having those days.
Me
Yeah.
too. Even the same situation like me, like hearing this scripture, the thief cometh not to steal. In
Mm.
fact, each time they quote that scripture, they made us pray. We speak in tongues. We fire the devil. We do rabababa shababa a lot. We do a lot of casting and binding. It's like
Mm.
we become too spiritual about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yes.
I have something to add.
Sure. Yeah, please go ahead.
This is Manny.
Yeah, Manny,
Uh,
yes.
Pastor, as you were saying that same scripture, something came to my mind. 1 Corinthians 2:10, that says that we should search this, that the Spirit searches all things, and that we should search the Spirit to know if something is actually coming from God. Like when the preacher is preaching, we know if his word is actually the truth from God or if they are false prophets. So I think it is right, like when we listen to messages from preachers, we should
Yeah.
know if they are actually speaking the truth from God or if they are
Mm.
just preaching doctrine or if they are false teachers. I think it's right to ask questions.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
very true, very true. I totally agree to what sister has just said. I think it is essential because it's not just about churches, but once you ask question to your political leaders when they go wrong, yes, right?
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
same thing is applied to churches as well. We are having so many problems in churches today is because we kind of think that we shouldn't ask. It is God who judges and things like that. So yeah, I think that is important for us to understand. And we are going to talk about that one particular passage where it talks about do not judge unless you get judged, right? So we are going to talk about that too. People a lot of times they misunderstand that we should not judge.
Mhm.
But in the actual sense of the passage, it means something else. So we are going to talk about that too in one of the weeks here. So yeah, so thank you for that little clarification there. It was quite interesting. Any other
Yeah.
things you want to talk about?
I just want to add that, there is I mean, l- looking back in our history, there is a reason why you are Christians,
Mm.
Catholics.
Mm.
we
Mm.
just we just did so many wrong things. You
Mm.
know, if I mean, that is the one thing that bugs me. Like I think these days, especially in America or Europe, I think so that believing in God is like something to kind of to be ashamed of. Like if you were believing in something that is not true, or believing in a lie. We used to be so proud of being Christians or Catholics, but now it's just like, oh man, I cannot say I'm Catholic, or oh, I don't want to say I believe in God, because all these new generations, they see God as a myth or as a lie. uh you know Honestly, when I watch TV, I see more shows focusing on being homosexual
Yeah.
than being a believer. Even superheroes, all everywhere is like they are now gay or something. But it's so hard to pinpoint someone who really truly believes in God in
Mm.
those shows or in the media. Like, oh, this person is so cool and he believes in God. No, it's
Mm.
usually like hush, hush, hush. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't say you believe in God. Don't talk about God. Like in America, it's illegal to talk about God in the schools.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I understand where that comes from. We did so much harm, and that's what I call thieves. The Pharisees are everywhere, still here around us,
Mm.
and because of all those heinous crimes, like
Mm.
pastors molesting kids.
Yeah.
uh, oh man, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm a truly believer now, and I want to believe until I die, but we really inherited a big mess. And you know, Pastor, there is a problem right now that younger generations don't want to join churches anymore. They just want to do their faith, whatever they call it, at home.
Mm.
if that is possible. So, man, Jesus was so right. These thieves have really
Mm.
made a lot of harm.
Mm.
Yeah. That's
Sure, sure. Yes, very true, very true. Yeah, interesting discussion.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've met so many people who say that they are not they do not want to come to the church because of what's happening in the church right now, like especially harassment. Then we have this sexual molestation, then the doctrines that they are teaching. So yeah, I've also encountered some of my friends who have admitted about that, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Okay, so our times today is up. I will tell you, like, for next week, let's go into chapter 13 of First Corinthians. Yeah. And this is a very famous passage. This is about love passage, we call it. So we are going to see some of the misconceptions about this passage and what is Paul exactly trying to say to the church by using the love language. So we're going to look at that next week. So here's one thing, like we are just 4 of us now, probably. But if you want to extend this invitation to someone who you know can benefit from this, we can have two or three people more to join us. So please share this if there's anyone who would like to get to be part of this. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
So, yeah. So that's it for today, and I hope to see you next week. Yeah.
Okay. See you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye-bye.